Welcome back. And for those of you that are either new to horses or well, maybe you have been around for a while and just haven't had a whole lot of bad experiences of any kind, I want to give a few tips on buying a horse. These are kind of generic, and there's a lot of more specialized stuff you can look at depending on what you specifically want for a horse. But, well, there's a lot of things to watch for and be wary of because I learned a lot of things the hard way. I'll tell you, I always thought people that owned animals were pretty nice people, but it turns out that in the horse world there are a lot of rather unsavory people that will not exactly be honest with you. And I did a video on this a while back, but I'll go into a little more detail, and it's been a while, so. Because there is a lot of things to watch out for that unless you've had those specific experiences or know people that have, you probably don't even know about them because I just couldn't even imagine when I first started buying horses that this kind of stuff went on. It just blew my mind. And I have been the victim of some of it. I'm going to share a few things you got to watch out for. One of the things you got to watch out for when you go to look at a horse is if they ask you to give them a specific time that you're going to be there, that's sometimes a concern. Not always a bad thing, and I don't blame them. I hate sitting around waiting for people to show up myself, so I understand. But the hazard of that is that, well, there's a lot of things they can do in preparation for your arrival if they know what time you're going to be there. And, well, sometimes they'll give the horse a painkiller to hide a lameness. Sometimes they'll give it some kind of tranquilizer or sedative to hide behavioral issues. Sometimes they'll go catch it and tack it up and ride it till it's tired to hide the behavior issues. And, well, sometimes they will also catch it and tack it up because they don't want you to know how hard it is to catch it and tack it up. So this is one of the things that you'll sometimes hear is that if you arrive somewhere to take a look at a horse and it's already tacked up and tied up somewhere and it's a little bit sweaty because it's already been ridden hard, well, chances are pretty good you better walk away from that one. If you want that horse particularly bad for some reason, well, you best come back another day and tell them that you want to see that horse caught, saddled, and ridden while it's fresh. You know, you don't want to see what they're presenting. Some other things that, and sometimes the information is, well, it's not intentional because they're selling it for their kid that's gone off to school or something like that, and they don't really know that much about the horse. So sometimes they don't intentionally mislead you, but their information isn't always that good. So, well, for example, if they tell you that horse is, well, can be ridden by an 8-year-old, well, I want to see an 8-year-old ride it. I'm not taking their word for it. Never take anybody's word for anything. You want to see some evidence. If they tell you that the horse is real easy to catch and saddle and ride and everything else, it's like, hey, I want a demo. Whatever you do, never ever get on a horse until you've seen somebody else riding it first. That's a caution that, and I have had that experience where people would come to take a look at horses I had for sale, and they insisted on a demo before they would get on it. And that's fair enough. I don't blame them. That's a smart thing. It can prevent a lot of injury. Because if that horse gets a little nuts on you, well, you can come off and get hurt, and you don't want that happening. So no matter what they insist that the horse is capable of, I want to see it. You get on that horse and show me. Because otherwise, I'm sorry, I'm going to assume the horse knows nothing. And that leads me up to the next thing is that because of the fact that unless you've had extensive demoing done to show you what that horse knows and what it can do, assume it knows nothing. And, well, don't be paying for training that you're not even sure it's got, because that can end up creating an awful lot of extra expense for you. Personally, I prefer to just simply buy a horse that doesn't have training, because even if it does have training, you're never, ever sure exactly what. You know, sometimes horses are fairly thoroughly trained. Sometimes, and I've had a couple of them where, yeah, you could ride them, But that's the only training they had. They knew absolutely nothing about groundwork of any kind. You couldn't maneuver them on the ground. They were rude. They were pushy. They were just horrible. But you could put a beginner on them. Just temperament of the horse, but the education was just horrible. So one of the things you want to do is, like I said, assume the horse knows nothing. Don't ever think that it's been trained to any extent. It may have been, and if it has been, well, that's okay, because what you're going to do is when you get that horse home, assuming it knows nothing, you are going to go through all of the steps of training. And that is the safest, absolute safest thing to do, because if the horse is in fact trained and it knows lots, that's all going to go really, really quick, and it's not going to take you long, and it's sure a good safeguard. And you may also find that there are a few little things here and there that the horse actually does not know, and that gives you an opportunity to find those things and teach them to the horse. And as you continue on, when you finally get up to the ridden part, well, away you go. But don't assume the horse knows anything. Assume it knows nothing. And, well, the same thing as I've said before, the biggest mistake we make is getting in a hurry to ride. And that happens all too often. You know, people buy a horse, get it home, hop on and have a wreck. And, you know, I mean, that horse needs at least a couple of days to decompress before you try riding it, even if it is well trained. And, you know, new owner and stuff like that. You know, it needs all that stuff. So, like I said, you know, don't assume that anybody is telling you any information that's accurate. It may not be intentionally misleading you, but at the same time, you know, they may not have the information that's necessary. And, you know, never assume anything. Just, you know, the only thing you can assume is that the horse knows nothing, and take it from there. And that's the safest thing to do. And when you get the horse home, you go through all the steps one by one. If it knows it all, not a problem. It's going to go real quick. If there's anything missing, you find it, you can fix it. If it knows nothing at all, well, you find that out too, and you can teach it all it needs to know. And you may still end up with a pretty darn good horse in the end. But when you go out to buy a horse, be careful. You may be misled, so don't assume anything. Always second guess everything. Don't necessarily believe what you're told. See it with your own eyes. Like I said, if they claim the horse can do this, that, the other thing, well, I want to see it. Simple as that. Can't take your word for it. So there you go. Tips on buying a horse. Have a good day.